Running hot, it's Pete's and Picks. I'm Tyler Christensen, and here with me, as always, is Coulter Olmstead. Coulter, we've been gone for a while. What have you been up to?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a hiatus, hasn't it? Yeah, just got busy with life and work and ready to get back into some basketball. How about you?
Well, I don't have a life outside of this. So I've just been watching NBA games, waking up at 3 and 4 in the morning, throwing on the fourth quarter, seeing some rotations, keeping an eye on my fantasy team. A lot of the teams are falling off. You've had some nice moves lately, so you got to stay on the waiver wires if you're still playing fantasy basketball.
Yeah, it's I've had some injuries come up and stuff like that, so I had to make some quick moves. Almost made a comeback this week, but lost in the end this week. So got to get that win streak started again.
Yeah, COVID is also affecting fantasy basketball a
Yeah.
lot. I lost KD on Saturday night. He's going to be gone for the week. I could even put him in my out spot, but COVID is affecting a lot of the league, obviously, and it's affecting our first topic today. We're going to be talking about the NBA All Star game, if we think it should happen or not, or if it's going to happen, probably both. We're going to review some NBA free agency signings about a month and a half in to the season. And we're also going to be talking about possible trade scenarios. We just saw Derrick Rose get traded to the Knicks, and we're going to probably start seeing some more trades all the way up until March. So let's get into it. First topic on today's docket is the NBA All-Star Game. Coulter, I'll let you lead it off. First, do you think it will happen?
Yeah, I think it will happen at this point. Whether or not they do the special events before the actual All-Star game, probably not going to have the celebrity All-Star game or the even the rookie sophomore match or whatever they call it now, U.S. versus the world. But I'm skeptical on if they should have the dunk contest and 3-point and skills challenge even. Uh, I just think with that many moving parts and a lot of traveling, I don't know if it's ever a great idea with COVID and stuff like that, but puts a lot of players in higher risk situations, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, it'll be very interesting if it will happen. I still think that it will, but I've been going back and forth ever since LeBron came out and said that he wasn't for it, and he would probably, or he could boycott it if he was selected, or he probably wouldn't play very hard. He wouldn't be in a very good mood the entire time the game was going on, all the festivities. Um, I could see it getting canceled. At the start of the year, the whole league was talking about a possible start date, and people are talking about February, even March. The realistic timeline was January with MLK Day. But it was all about the money in the end, so they started on the 22nd, a month sooner than people thought. So money could push this thing through, but I just question how much money is one night of television. Like you said, they're canceling all the other events, and they probably will. I'll get into that in a second, but I don't see why the NBA has to have it. I don't. I also don't see why they can't have it, because I've heard the point being made that teams are going to be at risk of COVID during this break no matter what, because they're all returning to their home cities, and you might want to go out, have a little fun on your break. I think the players have been pretty responsible for the most part, but cases are happening every week. Sometimes we have good weeks, sometimes we have bad weeks, and a lot of canceled games have been happening. I don't know. I see LeBron say things like that. Jeremy Grant on a Zach Lowe podcast said he wouldn't even want to play if he was selected, and he would be a first-time player. So a lot of this league doesn't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you said. Yeah, LeBron changes the minds of a lot of people in the NBA when what he says goes. I mean, even back to the bubble, when he was considering not doing the bubble at first, and everyone was like, okay, well, it must, the season must be over then because LeBron said so. So uh, I think it's probably gonna happen at the end of the day. I think a lot of players are not going to be super stoked about it. I don't think it's going to have quite the emotion and energy that it did even last year. That was for the first time in a long time an actual competitive all-star game with the new rule changes. So a little bit of a bummer, but I think it's probably for the best if they go about it as skeptical as possible.
I'll be interested to see if they have those events we were talking about, the 3-point contest and the dunk contest. I'd still watch it, especially the 3-point contest, but half of the fun in those events is the crowd's reaction. I mean, I don't really care for the judges too much, but I do like seeing their reaction, seeing what numbers they give them immediately. They usually put up a number right away. They put no thought into it, probably why we get all these bad ratings for dunks in the first place. But it should be interesting. The All-Star game is about having a good time. The players are always, what do they go to Kenny's party
Yeah.
from TNT? So it is about having a good time. I'm sure that's one reason the players don't want to do it too. And they probably need the break. And I've heard of the idea being tossed out there that you can just give them half a week off and make up some of the games that have been missed from COVID in the first place. So it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see why you can't have it because I think the risk level is honestly the same either way. I don't think you're benefiting or losing from it because they'll still test and you'll still know if the players can play in it or not. But I see more benefits from them not having it. But if I had to put my money on it right now, since when's the All-Star game is going to be in about March, right? Early March.
Yeah, I
So
think so.
it might be too late to change their mind, but they also threw it together too quick.
Yeah. The thing is, though, is if they all those players from different teams come together and one person gets COVID and it outbreaks to everyone, all those teams are shut. They can bring it back to all those cities, and then all of a sudden the league is completely shut down for 2 weeks. So I think there's some big risks.
Testing will be more important than ever
Yeah,
for the weekend if they do it.
absolutely.
Won't be fun for the players. But we're going to be drafting. We're going to be picking our own All-Star players next week. So that'll be a special
Yeah.
pod. So stay tuned to that. But now a lot of the podcasts out there, they take a look at players when they get signed to their team right away, but they never come back and look at it. They just move on to the next topic. But we're going to take a little bit of time here and analyze what teams did well in free agency, and some of the teams that didn't with some of the biggest moves. So Coulter, why don't you start with one of your best free agent signings this early into the season? We could look back at this and laugh at ourselves, but we've got a better idea of how these players fit in now.
I'm gonna take a guy that, just because I've watched the most Suns basketball of all the teams so far, is Jay Crowder. Uh, I can't remember. I think his contract was 3 years, 29 million or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's had a couple game winners already. Their defense is far better than it was last year. I think his numbers are even better than he was on the Heat last year. And I think he fits perfectly in their system alongside Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Definitely under the radar type player, maybe comparatively to some of these other people that are kind of blowing up on the scene. But yeah, I love Jay Crowder. I think he was worth every penny, and even more so than what the Phoenix Suns paid for him.
Yeah, he's in the same situation he was on his last contract. He's overplaying his contract, and now it's a very tradable contract, and all these teams are going to want him. But he fits in perfect on the Suns right now. The Suns at the 4 spot, 13-9. So I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. So great pick. We started off with a big name uh, for the for our picks. I'll go with I'll start with Gordon Hayward. He's not my favorite free agency signing, but Gordon Hayward. A lot of people doubted it. Not this podcast. We were on it. We saw the value. We saw the fit. What's up, Simmons and Russillo? We're coming at you. We'll play 2v2 on any day. Hey, it was 120 million. 30 a year. A lot of people said it's 37 because they went over the cap so much. But I mean, even at 37, it's starting to look like a decent, if not good, contract. The Hornets are competitive. We might not have seen them being this competitive, but they're turning it around a little bit lately. 5-5 overall. They're 11-13. They're in the 7th spot, so they're going to be in that play-in tournament battle all season. Gordon Hayward is the main reason for that. He's at 23 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, back to his Utah Jazz numbers. He's got a great PER, one of the best in the league. He's at 22 PER. So, yeah, I really like him a lot. I think a lot of the players, LaMelo Ball's learning a lot from him. LaMelo's taking off right now. So when we talked about him at the start of the year, we looked at his value, not just for production, but for the cultural values that he would bring into the locker room. And I think it's showing.
Yeah, he's definitely brought a lot of consistency to that team, especially with how many young players they have. You've seen flashes from PJ Washington and LaMelo Ball and even Terry Rozier, and Devontae Graham's having a little bit of a down year, but overall, yeah, I mean, he's averaging career high in points right now, and he's almost at the 40, 50, 90 club. I think he's got to get his free throw percentage up a little bit, but crazy efficient so far on a team that's being competitive in the East. I think they're going to get better as the season goes on, and I think he has a lot to do with that culture changing in Charlotte.
Absolutely. I'll give you my second one here. I've got Christian Wood, probably the best free agency signing of the entire offseason. He just went down with an injury. He's going to be week to week for a while. Rest in peace, my fantasy team. But he's been really good. 22 points per game, 10 rebounds. He signed at $41 million for 3 years. I'm going to put that in contrast with somebody else who got paid way too much for 3 years. But Christian Wood, 15th best PER in the league. That's at 24.2 something. That's amazing. His field goal percentage is at 56%. His 3-point field goal percentage is at 42%. I knew he was a perfect fit next to Harden, but he was turning out to be the perfect fit next to John Wall. And if he can come back, the Rockets are at 11-11. They're 7-3 in their last 10. So they're turning it around. They're in the 10 spot right now, but there's only 2 games between the 4 spot, which is the Suns, and the 10th spot, which is the Rockets. So watch out for them. They might tank with some of the trade pieces they have. We'll get to in a little bit, but I really like that Christian Wood signing. 41 mil, 3 years.
Yeah,
pretty valuable.
Super solid pickup for them, and even since the Harden trade, he's I think raised his gameplay, and he's a big part of why they have the number 1 defense in the league since that Harden trade went down. But yeah, perfect fit with John Wall. I like him in a few situations. He's been next to Cousins. I think he can even play that 4. So definitely love Christian Wood, and will forever be jealous that Milwaukee did not hold on to him when they had the chance. Yeah. So another person that I'm not going to say he is outperforming his contract, but maybe living up to his contract, similar to what we were talking about with Gordon Hayward, is Jeremy Grant. He's playing on one of the worst teams right now. They cannot stop anyone, but he is shooting, career high numbers. His PR is a little bit iffy, but he's shooting, same numbers, 45% from the field, 39 from downtown at 24 points a game. Regardless if it's on a bad team, for him to become a number one option, I had no clue that he was going to be this efficient, especially after those numbers that were coming out the first few games of the year. So I give massive kudos to Jeremy Grant. He's, I think, worked on that, worth that contract so far.
Oh yeah, and I think he is worth a lot more. Was it 60 mil for 3 years? Is that what it was? Is 20 mil for a certain number of years?
3 for 60, yeah.
3 for 60, yeah. So I think he's worth good 25 to 30. I mean, his stats are comparable to Gordon Hayward, and you're getting the defense.
Yeah.
Probably don't get the shooting or the playmaking that Hayward brings, but he's living up to that contract and beyond it. Good for him. He's stuck in Detroit. That's his own fault. He could have got that same number in Denver and made Denver one of the top 3 teams. And now we see that Denver fall off. And I think that's because Grant left a little bit, a couple of injuries for the Nuggets, but they are definitely missing Grant right now.
Yeah, on the defensive end especially.
Yep. Who's your last one?
I'm going to go with the guy that I think he got the biggest contract in free agency last year. That's Anthony Davis. I think it was 5 years, 189 or something like that.
I got you beat.
Is there another higher contract than that?
So when Anthony Davis got traded, he lost some of his potential value. I don't think he could sign Supermax.
He could.
He whined his way out of New Orleans when he could have just done it quietly. But yes.
But yeah, he his numbers are a little bit down right now, but the Lakers have the best record in the league, and he's still just as dominant, I think, on the defensive end especially. He's been a little bit inconsistent, but they have a lot of more offensive pieces than they did last year, so he's got to give up a little bit of points. But yeah, he's an probably a starting 5 all-star this year and still one of the top centers in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. He's given up a little bit to the team. His efficiency has went down. A lot of new pieces in there. But yeah, like AD a lot. But I told you I have you beat for the biggest contract on this one. Never would have guessed it a couple of years ago, but it's Rudy Gobert, bigger contract than Anthony Davis. So $205 million for 5 years, a little short of the Supermax. But he's been playing great. 13 points per game, 13 rebounds per game, 3 blocks. So he's just up to his old ways. I think I picked Rudy Gobert for one of the best signings because of what his team is doing.
Yeah.
The Jazz are 19-5 right now, best record in the league. They're beating good teams. They just put a smackdown on a good Pacers team the other night. I watched as it was 3 a.m. in the morning. But, yeah, great team. But you're getting a 2-for-1 with this last pick. I had to do it. I got the shirt on today. I know the fans are in suspense when I'm going to bring the player up. But Donovan Mitchell, he's playing well too. He's signed too. He's got 5 years at 163 because he's on one of those first contracts still. His 5th year is a player option. He can get that all the way up to
I think it's 195.
195, yeah, thank you. If he gets first team, second team, or third team. And at this rate, I don't know if they probably put Gobert and Mitchell if they start in one of those first 3 teams if they continue having the best record in the league. So a lot on the line for Mitchell too. I like the Jazz. I don't know if they can hang on to that number 1 spot in the West, but I think they'll be in the top 3 for sure. Yeah. So really like those 2 signings. They're set up for the future. We could have thrown Jordan Clarkson in there. We're about to move to our worst signing, so we probably wouldn't have gotten to him, but Jazz are set up for a couple of years if they can make some sneaky moves, or if Mike Conley and the gang can keep up doing what they're doing.
Yeah, who did you have for some of your picks that weren't as favorable as the ones that we just spoke about?
Getting in the mud. I like it. I'm going to start with Danilo Gallinari. This one's a little unfair because he has been hurt and it's a small sample size, but Danilo was at 61, a little over 61 million for 3 years. Compare that to Christian Wood, 41 for three, and Christian Wood's way outplaying Gallinari, and Gallinari's going to be going down in production over the next couple of years. He's at 10 points per game, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 44% field goal, which isn't too bad, but his PER is 14.38. Can barely find his way on the court with the fast-moving Hawks who are actually playing well without him. They don't really even need him. So Gallinari's contract isn't looking too good. It could probably be moved. He's kind of in a tough situation. But I think the Hawks are regretting it. They could have saved that money to pay John Collins, but instead they went the Gallinari route, and I think they messed up.
Yeah, and they probably had the biggest most noise in free agency, and another person that I thought that they signed that was questionable to begin with was the last person on their list was Bogdanovich. He's only played 9 games because he broke his kneecap. But yeah, his numbers are way down comparatively to what he was doing in Sacramento. I think he's averaging just under 10 points a game. His PER is like 10. And he's shooting like under 40% from the field. He has not meshed very well with all those other wings that they have right now. And just like you said, there's so many pieces on that Atlanta Hawks team, and they're just fast moving. So to get back in that system for those guys coming off injuries and stuff like that's gotta be hard to get back into that rotation and find minutes.
Yeah, it probably won't be until next year when some of those younger guys are off the team.
Yeah, they have a lot, with this trade deadline coming up, they have a lot of pieces if they want to mess around and trade, have some sort of trade, but we'll see what happens.
I'll be bringing up the Hawks player in a second, but another player that this team probably wants to trade them is Davis Bertans. This trade looked really good. I was probably defending it when it happened. Bertans 80 mil for 5 years. He was spreading the floor last year. He's shooting about 42% from 3 points per game. Not so much this year. 10 points per game. 33% field goal rate from him.
Wow.
It doesn't help when he is shooting 8 of them per game. So not doing what he's supposed to be doing. I mean, if you look at that as an effective field goal rate, it's still 50%, but the league is honestly averaging, I think, a little bit above that now. And this is where it gets real bad because he was supposed to overperform for offense to make up for his defense. He's not doing that. So his PER is at 9 right now.
Ooh.
9. Single digits, giving Russell Westbrook a run for his money. Russell's a little higher than that. Barely, but 24 minutes per game, your PER isn't going to be high if you're on a crappy team, but it's not going to be that low necessarily either. So he's getting playing time and he's not producing. So it's going to be a long season for my once, maybe never again, Washington Wizards.
Yeah, they're an interesting team that can't stop anyone and just rely on Bradley Beal to do everything on offense. Same, different year, same story. It seems like, but who knows? We'll have to see what happens with Bradley Beal in the next few weeks. He could be out of there, I think. The last guy I have for bad signings is DeAnthony Melton on the Memphis Grizzlies. He signed a 4-year, $34 million, but his stats are essentially the same as last year. He is shooting a little bit better from the field, but free throw percentage way down. And pretty much every stat other than scoring is down so far this year. On a team that's had a lot of injuries, so he's gotten a lot of playing time. His minutes are up, but all his stats are essentially the same. So I think for a person that became like a vital role player, he's kind of being outplayed by a lot of those younger players. Desmond Bain has been out of this world efficient so far as a rookie. They got Tyus Jones also been playing really good, while all the other injuries in their backcourt with John Morant getting hurt and stuff like that. So a person that I just haven't been super stoked. He was like one of the higher sought after D&3 guys and has been kind of inconsistent so far.
Yeah. I can't get my feedback on the Memphis Grizzlies right now. Chris Vernon from the Mismatch has just been talking. The Grizzlies were like the 6th spot for half a day because they haven't had to play anybody because of how many times they've had COVID or been in contact with another team. Yeah, a lot of young players, like you said, and young players usually don't lead to wins. A lot of potential for that team, but Chris Vernon is ruined it for me. Go check out my top 10 NBA podcast to see where they landed. It would have been higher, I can tell you that much. But just wrapping it up before we move to the trade candidates, since a lot of these teams are realizing how bad these players are and probably already want to trade them. But Tristan Thompson, he's kind of fit into the system. He's at 7 points per game, 9 rebounds. So honestly, probably what you expected from him. He was one of the typical 2 years for 19 million. Throw him in with Serge Ibaka and Montrezl Harrell. I think we both had him last, as how excited we were for him to be on that team. Tice is playing better than him. I don't know why they needed Thompson. They should have made a push for Hayward to keep him, or should have made a push for Miles Turner, who's playing outstanding. And they might be doing that at the deadline if they can swing it. So Thompson, not so good for the Celtics. Celtics are still piecing it together with Tatum and Brown, but they could have been doing better if they would have spent that money a little more wisely.
Yep. Yeah. And Kemba just coming back and getting into things. They're all in shambles and stuff. So I think they'll put it together by the end of the season, but I would not be surprised if Boston Celtics and Danny Ainge made a move before the deadline.
Yeah, plenty of teams looking to make a move. So we're going to set up, we both have a list of possible trades we're going to run through. We're going to debate them. We're going to see if they're legit or not. We use the NBA trade machine. We might have to throw that link into one of the descriptions here. Yeah, people can go do it for themselves, and we'll probably be producing some blogs right before the trade line in about a month. But you'll start seeing a lot more trades going down the wire. So we're going to beat Woj to the punch, and we're going to throw out some mock trades here. I'm going to start because I think I have the biggest name on the market, and that's Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
He's been ridiculous in games. He's been refusing to shoot it every once in a while. He went 1-14 the other night, which was, I think it was 1-14. It was absolutely insane. Usually averages like 50 points in fantasy basketball. I think he scored like 10 for me that night. But Bradley Beal, first possible destination for him. This is probably the most straightforward out of all of them. Bradley Beal to the Denver Nuggets, another underperforming team. For Michael Porter Jr., who I absolutely love, and Gary Harris to make the money work. And that's all you need. Those two players, I think it benefits both teams. What do you think, Coulter?
Yeah, I think they could get away with that without having to, maybe they'll have to throw in a second round or a couple second rounds. But I think with the potential of Michael Porter Jr., that trade makes sense on both sides. I could even argue that the Nuggets would oppose this trade if it was even offered to them because of how high Michael Porter Jr.'s upside is. He just needs playing time, but you can't ever dock the opportunity to take Bradley Beal, especially with how bonkers he's been playing the last year. Going back to the bubble and pre-All-Star game last year and just barely didn't make the All-Star team. He's almost a surefire All-Star this year. But yeah, I would love to see that, honestly. I think him, Jokic, and Murray would be super fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know if it actually makes the Nuggets better. I think they're probably the one who says no first. I think
Yeah.
Bradley Beal is better than MPJ and Gary Harris, but you have a small window with these superstars sometimes, and sometimes you need to get a big three and hope for the best. I just want to mention it because it's been out there. A lot of people have been saying, "Why don't you do Jamal Murray?" I think the Nuggets would do Jamal Murray for Bradley Beal, but now I think the Wizards are the one who says no. And I don't know. It depends on the other suitors for Bradley Beal in the market. But I think that Michael Porter Jr., Gary Harris, who isn't playing well but has potential to play well, is the best chance, especially because Mike Malone, the coach of the Nuggets, doesn't like Michael Porter Jr. that much. He doesn't give him enough playing time and doesn't start him enough. And I think Michael Porter could want his own team, and he fits in better with Westbrook. If the Wizards trade for Jamal Murray, you're gonna have Jamal Murray and Westbrook in the backcourt. Good luck with that.
Well, and if you look at where the Wizards are sitting right now in the standings, and they're inevitably going to get a top 5 pick anyway, so why wouldn't you try to go way younger and then have him and Denny and Hachimura? I mean, you're pretty much got a good nucleus right there of good wings, and if you
You
can get
forgot
some,
Davis Bertans, though.
yeah, but you put 4 of those guys on the floor with insert okay point guard, I guess.
Yeah, so he's a
uh,
point guard.
yeah, I think Bradley Beal is going to be highly sought after again. He was at the trade deadline last year, and I think he will be again this year.
All right. Yep, big name. I know there's another big name you probably want to get to. Who you got? Who you got?
It's another shooting guard in the East on a team that's, in my opinion, underachieving even more so than I thought they would this year, and that's Zach LaVine. I think he's going to be pretty hot topic, especially for those contending teams looking for some shooting. Um, and I have a couple trades, but I think I'm going to stick with the second one that I went, and it's Zach LaVine to the Mavericks for Dwight Powell, Josh Green, Jalen Brunson, and a first round pick.
Okay,
What do
that's a
you
big one. I thought you were going to say Porzingis for a second.
No, I think that he's Zach LaVine's on a really reasonable contract for being the top guy on the team. And I think the Bulls are going to be searching for a true point guard. And so I think Jalen Brunson is a good pick for them. But I
I
don't know.
like
What
it.
are your
What
thoughts?
I like it. Yeah, Zach Levine, 19.5 million left, 2 years. So the Mavericks could re-sign him. They were saving money for the Giannis sweepstakes, so they're going to have a lot of money to re-sign people. Yeah, I actually like that one a lot. I think you have my Levine trade beat. I don't know if I like that pieces coming back to the Bulls though. The Mavericks might have to offer something a little bit better. It was a collection of players, but the Bulls already have a collection of players. I think something could be worked out there. Well, what's the Porzingis situation like? I'm kind of doing this on the fly, but I really like the destination. I just don't know if I like the pieces.
He, who would you get? Who would just straight up Porzingis for Zach LaVine, you
Well,
think?
I got it right here. I got Levine 19.5, Porzingis 29.4. Both of these teams don't have. I mean, I like your pick because both teams have all these players that don't fit. I think they're better than what their record shows, but it's just an awkward fit. The Mavericks do need a shooting guard. The Bulls have an abundance of guards.
They have
Wendell
a
Carter,
But they have a bunch of like two guards. They don't have I like even Kobe White's not really a point guard.
I think you're right. You throw Josh Richardson in, they probably regret that one. They're probably gonna have to wait for. He was just traded, so he's gonna have to wait for one of those deadlines to pass for him to be able to trade it. But you're right. The Mavs do have a lot of shooting guards, so I could see them getting rid of. Hardaway has a lot of money, so it'll make it hard. So if this trade does happen, I bet Josh Richardson is thrown in there. and then we'd have to throw in some money. Maybe sorry, not Michael. Otto Porter Jr. at 28 million. Um,
Are you keeping
expiring the
Porzingis in there then?
contract. Keeping Porzingis in there. So lots of moves to be made. I would like to see that one happen somehow. There's a lot of moving pieces on that one, but I like the two teams involved. I'll give you my Levine pick before we go to our next player. I had Levine. Give me the name, Coulter. You had it down the first time. Don't make me try to say it.
Arcadinaccio.
Yeah,
Arcadinaccio.
something like that. He was pretty good on Villanova, and he was getting a lot of playing time last year. So those two for Nikola Vucevic of the Orlando Magic. I don't know. It'd be sad to see Levine go to another team that we're never going to see him play on. But the money works. Both teams are trying to move on from these two players. Wendell Carter Jr. just keeps getting hurt, so maybe they want to make the move there and see what Vucevic can do for him. I don't know. Get Levine out of Chicago. Let's start some kind of online petition. He's too good to be on that team.
Yeah. And I think if he was on a contender, whether it's, either of those teams or maybe, I know Philadelphia's been in the rumor mill about that too. It'd be cool to see him on a team that actually has a chance to make a playoff run. So, you want to go next? Since you just did your Levine trade, or you want me to go on?
You take it.
So I'm gonna save my biggest one for last. I got Lonzo Ball. I know he's gonna be another person that's probably gonna have a lot of different potential suitors coming to New Orleans' way. And this one could be an interesting one. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. I got Lonzo Ball to the Raptors for Aaron Baines and Patrick McCaw. And probably got to throw some sort of pick in there. It would be interesting to see if the Raptors would bite if it was a first-round pick.
That's a very interesting one. Yeah, I like it. What are you doing with Ben Fleet and Lowry?
I think that he could play next to either of, like maybe Lonzo comes off the bench. Or I honestly think if you play those three and then like OG Anunoby, Siakam, Boucher, those three, switch those three out and take two of them. I think that's Lonzo Ball is a great defender. And he's shooting the three-pointer respectable this year. So I think if you take him off the ball a little bit and make him more of a spot-up shooter in certain situations, I think he could work. And he's unselfish, and with scoring guards like Van Fleet and Kyle Lowry, I think he'd work with them.
I think you made a good pick. I think Lonzo, wherever he gets traded, he's going to have to come off the bench. Yeah. I was trying to come up with a trade for him. I couldn't even figure one out. His name's in the rumor mill. The Pelicans have too many point guards, but you just compare him against all the point guards in this league. It's very point guard heavy, and he can't score efficiently enough. I still like him a lot, and I think he can run he can play the point guard position very well. But there's just so much talent that he's going to have to come off the bench. So he could be on the Raptors for that situation. They're always playing a lot of guards. So I like it. I could see it happening. Maybe change the players again. But
I think Norman Powell might have to be in that trade. They're going to have to. Yeah. But, I think that the Raptors, they find a way to get these weird trades at the trade deadline sometimes, that when they got Serge Ibaka a couple years ago right at the trade deadline for almost nothing. And, it should be interesting. Lonzo will be one of those, I think, hot commodities.
Yeah, I think you will too. I think another hot commodity is going to be DeMar DeRozan. He's got a lot of different places he could go, but at the same time, his contract is worth so much it makes the options limited, and he only has 1 year left. So he's got 27 million, 1 year left. A lot of teams might want to just trade for him and then dump him. Team like, I don't know, the Cavs could do something like that for Kevin Love. That's not the one I came up with. The one that I do like a little bit more than that, and it's a little funky, but it's DeRozan for Oladipo and House. I think the Spurs would do this because they would want to re-sign Oladipo to a longer contract. I know they have a lot of young pieces, but I think Oladipo shows enough potential, and I think he would be a good fit for the Spurs. He's still young enough. He's surprisingly young, and he fit in with that growing Spurs roster. And I keep thinking the Spurs are going to tank. I think I've written about it, but I keep getting proved wrong over and over again until Popovich leads that team. They're not going to tank, and they might want to make a move, and DeRozan might be the piece to help them do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good trade. My DeRozan trade was a little bit more ridiculous, and it definitely probably won't happen. But if you want to hear it, I can.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So it's a 3-team trade.
Oh gosh. Okay, Simmons.
Okay, it's DeRozan goes to the Magic. Eric Fournier comes back to the Spurs. Then Aaron Gordon goes to the Blazers. And Derek Jones and Zach Collins go to the Spurs and a first-round pick.
That's amazing. That was probably the best pick yet. So the Blazers get Aaron Gordon, perfect fit for them.
Yep.
I like that. Get off of Zach Collins, and they're getting rid of Derek Jones probably because to make the money work.
Money work, yep.
They probably have to be the team to give up the first pick too.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the Spurs get a pick and
Evan Fournier
and Evan
from
Fournier.
the Magic.
They love their European players, but
and Fournier's on a contract year, so he'll be a free agent after this year. So no money against you.
They'll resign him.
They probably would. Yeah, they signed Bellinelli when he was 34. So and then DeRozan to the Magic.
And DeRozan to the Magic, and the Magic would want to keep him. Yeah.
I bet they would, yeah. Next to those two other young guards.
I don't know what the Magic do. They get somebody to re-sign him.
Yeah, you're right.
Them for 5 years and get locked into the 9th seed. DeRozan's a perfect 9th seed player, so
yep.
I like that. We'll write that one down. We'll put that one on the board. We'll see what Woj has to say in a month. A lot of moving pieces there, but I like that trade for everybody.
Yeah, that's and fun. Aaron Gordon is a player that has kind of been not really like a sought after trade deadline player, but like a piece that could be in a trade. And I think he's another player that just needs to get a new destination and fresh start. I think I don't think he's a number one option. Like Orlando tried to make him for so long, and Vucevic took over, but I think he'd work well next to McCollum and Nurkic and Dame. Just go shoot threes and play defense.
That was a hot take. I'm going to give it to you. That was a hot take. So I'm going to have to cool this down a little bit colder of a take. But I'm going to go with J.J. Redick to the Celtics for a second-round pick. Put it down.
Ooh.
He is at $11 million. They'd have to figure some way out how to do this. The word on the street is he's going to be a buyout candidate because he can't get on the court for the Pelicans because Van Gundy still hates him from the Magic days. Doesn't actually hate him. He just never plays him. I don't know what that means. But, Redick to the Celtics, one of the contenders. I was trying to figure out a way for him to go back. Redick and Ball trade to the Clippers, but I don't think that could happen. Maybe throw in Marcus Morris and put him on the Pelicans, toughen that team up. But I don't see that happening. I think the Clippers like Morris. But, JJ, just somewhere out there. What's he worth? A second-round pick? I was thinking maybe JJ Redick for Peyton Pritchard, Two small white guys. A
Ooh,
little bit of a trade.
I don't know. I think the Celtics are in love with Peyton Pritchard. I think
I think so too.
he's the one bench player that's untouchable essentially. Um,
I know. Yeah.
yeah, the Celtics, for as many draft picks as they've had over the past few years, they really don't have a ton of like really good trade assets off their bench. But yeah, that was actually my next pick was a Celtics trade too, because I was similar to what we were talking about earlier with Tristan Thompson. They just need that five spot filled a little more consistently. And so my trade is Jared Allen and Davian Dotson for Andrew Neesmith and Grant Williams and probably a first round pick. And I don't know what the picks would be, but Jared Allen's on his rookie contract, so the money's pretty easy, but he's he's on a team with so many posts that I think they'd be willing to get rid of him. And I think a team like the Celtics, who needs a solid center, could nab him for something, something little.
Yeah, you had a great trade, and now I think you're
Yeah,
going off the rails. You're
I
going
was
off
just
the rails.
I was just trying to figure out Jared Allen to the Celtics. I think that's a good pick, but I couldn't figure out like a one that makes sense.
I'll throw this one in there because I had him written down. Andre Drummond. I don't know how he's going to be bought out, but I've heard of the Nets wanting to get him in a buyout situation. I mean, he's making a ton of money, but they do need a center. It seems like they could have worked something out when they were doing that four-way trade in the
Yeah.
first place. But yeah, the Cavs do have a lot of big men, but they might want to keep Jared Allen because he fits with the timeline. But it's an interesting one. I'm going to throw one more trade at you. You still got your favorite one, right?
No, my favorite one was the Aaron Gordon DeRozan trade.
Oh, that
So
was a good one.
yeah.
You have any left then?
Uh no, that's all I had.
Okay, all right. Well, we saved a melodramatic one for last. That's how we do it here at
Nice.
Decent Picks. I have John Collins for a first round pick. Pick your team. My first team that comes to mind that's a perfect John Collins candidate is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're always getting these young players right when they're coming up, and then they love to trade them when they're just becoming good. You know, they get rid of Durant, they get rid of Harden, they get rid
Sabonis.
of Westbrook, they get rid of Sabonis, they get rid of Oladipo. Just they get all these players right before they hit their prime. They have these good years. They're about to become great. Trade them, and I think
Yep.
that's John Collins. That's going to be his career trajectory. First round pick to the Hawks. Um, Maybe another team gets into the John Collins sweepstakes, but he's playing great. His days might be numbered with that Hawks salary cap situation. Calorie cap. That's me. I have a calorie cap right now, and I'm going way over it. But the Hawks need to move Collins, get some picks for the future. I think the Thunder could be in the running because they need to make some moves. Having all these first round picks isn't going to help them. They have all these young pieces. They're already playing well with the players they have.
Yep. And I think that the Thunder are gonna look to, maybe I don't know what they might do, a buyout for Horford, but I bet George Hill doesn't. I bet George Hill's gone too before the deadline. I think they're going to try to keep their young roster as young as they can going into the second half of the season. So yeah, I think that's a good pick and help build some rapport and chemistry with him and SGA. I think that's pretty solid. Do you
I'd like
put
to
him?
see
Do you
John
put him at the
Paul.
5? Has Horford been
No, I
at
put
the
him.
5?
He has been at the 5. I would put him at the 4, but he's one of those players that could play in a small lineup or a big
Yeah,
lineup. But
because Baisley's been playing pretty solid at the 4. Um, but I could see you putting both of those guys on the floor together at the same time.
yeah,
Man,
absolutely. I'd
OKC,
like
I
to
didn't.
see. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking how young OKC is. Like all of their players are so young, except for Horford and George Hill.
Yeah, and they've both been playing great too.
Yeah.
They've been good role models for those guys. So I could see them keeping them. Horford's contract is really unmovable, but I like to see John Collins to the Blazers too. Can they get a four? Can they
Yeah.
get a four? Gosh, they've been needing it for so long. And I mean, dang, make a move, Blazers. Stop just building players. It takes too long. Make
Yeah.
a move.
All right. Well, we had some good trades there. I'm interested to see. Maybe Woj will take some notes, and maybe we'll hear from him coming up, because I think we had some good trades there.
Absolutely. Looking forward to doing our NBA All-Star picks
Yep.
next week. Might have a special guest. We're trying to get him on the line, so stay tuned for that.
Yep. And the G League starts next week. Everyone's excited for that. Just Coulter.
They're in the bubble, right?
Yep, in the bubble. In the same one that they were in Orlando.
Awesome.
At Walt Disney. So, yeah, gonna try to watch some G League basketball next week. But until then, we'll talk about the All-Star. Talk about the highest level of the NBA versus the lowest level.
All right. We'll see you, everybody.
All right. Until next time, keep the slices coming.